It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
Well, good morning. If you weren't already awake, great to have you here. This is the third and final week of our annual financial management series, which this year we've called Recession Proof Your Life. Normally we teach this, we teach a financial management series every year. Normally we land that around May-ish. This year we brought it forward, launched the end of February and continuing through to now, because as you've probably noticed here in Australia and also many countries around the world, we seem to be riding a financial roller coaster. You know, interest rates have gone up again, so mortgage holders feeling that. Rent's going up, utilities going up, grocery prices are going up. All the while, wages for many people are not keeping pace. And that kind of dynamics inspired memes like this one here. Do you keep your money in your bank or at home? In my memories. And that's unfortunately probably the story for some people. But look, here's the thing. Whilst in real life, when it comes to riding a roller coaster, there's kind of nothing you can do except sort of hang on and hope you survive. When it comes to a financial roller coaster, there are actually things we can be doing. Because the reality is that while maybe some people have been caught maybe a little bit by surprise by the current financial situation that we find ourselves in, God wasn't surprised. And in fact, God has been speaking for thousands of years about how we can wisely manage the finances that He entrusts to us. And people have been field testing God's wisdom and His principles for thousands of years. And if doing that, they've discovered that, hey, it works. And in fact, the theme verse is something that God spoke through a spokesperson named Jeremiah, and we've been hitting this every single week. This is what the Lord says, and this is what we've been doing during this series. Stop at the crossroads and look around. So right there, God is highlighting that there are multiple options, there are multiple avenues, there are multiple approaches. And what God recommends, what wisdom suggests, is ask for the old godly way and walk in it. And then God drops a promise. If you travel its path, you will find rest for your souls. And so week one, we hit what we would consider, and our best understanding of God's principles is to be the starting point, is to put God first. To recognize that everything's His and that we're to honor Him with everything, including our finances, and then actually learn that God says, if you honor me, I will honor you in return. And so we open up our worlds, including our financial world, to God by putting Him first. Last week, we spoke a very countercultural topic, pay off debt. Because here's the reality. Whilst debt, I'm talking about consumer debt, credit cards, personal loans, buy now, pay later debt. Whilst it's common in our culture, it's not God's best. And people are being dictated to by their debt. And it's not what financial freedom looks like, and it's not God's best. So if you missed either of those, you can go back to our podcast, catch up on those, because this whole series makes sense if you kind of slice and dice it in the order that we've been teaching. Today, I want to talk about building up savings. Now, we've highlighted that typically people are in one of three categories on the financial journey. Let's bring that up. Some people you'll find are in the behind category. And if that's you, you'll recognize some of these things going on in your world, and it's stressful. That's not God's best, and that's not a life sentence if you look for the old godly ways and walk in them. You can actually move forward from behind to caught up. And then other people, some of you, you are in the caught up category. That's you. That describes you. You are making some inroads in paying off debt. You've got an emergency fund saved up and things are stable for you. Again, we've been highlighting that is also not the end of the journey, that there's better, that there's something more, and there's something you can be excited about, and that is ahead. Now, let me put my Captain Obvious hat on and say this. If you're in the behind category, or if you're in the caught up category and you've still got some debt, although you're paying it down, savings is not your now step, okay? But please don't tune out, because what I would encourage you to open yourselves up to is having it as a vision for your future, sooner the better, like an aspirational goal, something that God would want to continue to lead you on. And in fact, the very habits and practices that we learn and apply to go from behind to caught up and caught up to ahead, those actual same practices and habits are the very things that we can continue once we're out of debt to actually start to build up savings. And this is what the journey could look like. If you've got your smartphone camera, you could scan this, and this is what the journey could look like. This is Dave Ramsey. He's a Jesus follower. He's a kingdom guy. He's a Southern American, so he kind of says it like it is, which I love. He's outlined an approach which he calls 7 baby steps. So this is going to take you to one of his websites, ramseysolutions.com. We're not paid by them to put this up there. This is not the only approach in the world. This is just one that is kingdom oriented, and we have seen people, one after another, families, households, start to learn and apply these 7 baby steps. Let me show you the first 3. 2 of them we visited last week because they speak to debt. So if you're behind or you're caught up, you're still working through some of your debt, these are the first 2 of the 7 baby steps. This is where you need to focus your energies and discipline. Now, though, we're going to start to creep into step 3. And again, these are step 3 of 7. I'm not going to get to the other 4 in this series. And then beyond step 3 is the opportunity. Once you have a 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund, you can continue to be more generous and to build up more savings. But here's the thing about savings. In fact, here's the thing about getting out of debt and then about moving into savings is it requires margin. It requires not spending everything you earn. And the statistics play out that there are a lot of people living with no margin. Partly because we live in a culture that promises us that happiness is just another purchase away. And so we buy the thing and we feel a bit of happiness until the credit card statement comes in, or until we realize it's payday tomorrow, but I have no money today. And people are living with no margin. Now, last 2 weeks, I quoted intentionally some very shocking statistics when it comes to the level of consumer debt in Australia. Let me show you a couple of shocking statistics when it comes to savings in Australia. 44%, nearly half of Australians have less than 1 month expenses saved. In other words, if those households lose their job, health crisis, something where their income would shrivel up, they've got about a 1 month runway before things are going to get very ugly. And then a quarter of Australians, that runway's a bit longer, but it's only 6 months. And so this idea of moving our journey to where we're creating margin to get out of debt and then continue to create margin to build up some savings, this matters because this is real world for many people. Now, let me just say one thing before we move on. I know that right now in Australia, and the stories are coming out in the media, there are some people who actually have been managing their finances diligently themselves, for their household. They haven't been reckless and frivolous, and the cost of living is squeezing them right now. And I don't have any glib, simple answers. In fact, those are the people that I feel for the most, because they haven't actually put themselves in a financial crunch. Except to say this: if that is you, more than ever, acknowledge that God is your provider. More than ever, lean into Him. That you're like, I'm doing everything I can. You know, we've trimmed all of the expenses we know to trim, and yet this is a real challenge. Then more than ever, lean into God to be your provider and expect miracles. Okay? I mean, there's practical things as well. Maybe you need to get some budgeting help. I mean, but it's the foundation is God's my provider, and more than ever, I'm going to lean in to Him. Now, for the rest of you whose noses are still above water, remember, when you're nostril deep in it, one ripple is potentially life-threatening. So those of you who got your noses above water, listen up, because God's got something for you, and it's exciting, and it's better. One of the people God's spoken through and used to put these old godly ways out is a guy named Solomon. Now, Solomon was the second king of Israel, kind of a wise dude, and he wrote down all these wisdom sayings, all this like, whoa, man, that's so wise, that's so wise, that's so wise. And it's collected now into a book called the Book of Proverbs. You find it in the Bible. And really some of what Solomon had to write about wisdom acknowledges that even though modern circumstances have changed from what Solomon was dealing with thousands of years ago, Amazon Prime wasn't a thing, Netflix wasn't a thing back then. Here's what hasn't changed. The human heart hasn't changed. And God hasn't changed. God's principles haven't changed. So these old godly ways are not only just as relevant today, they're also just as powerful today as they were when God inspired Solomon to write this. Here's one. The wise person saves for the future. The foolish person spends whatever he gets. This is not like, wow, I never thought about that. I mean, this is like, yes, it's plainly obvious, but here's really the big takeaway is, are you the wise person or are you the foolish person? Which one are you? Which one do you want to be? And where's it going to take you? And we have to make those sorts of decisions. So as best as we can understand, and I had a friend of mine who's way smarter than I am, slice and dice this years ago when we asked the question, could you just summarize what's the basic biblical pattern of financial management? And he, slice and dice it into this, that it comes down to give, save, live. In that order, that God instructs us to give, then to save, and then to live off the rest. And look, a reasonably well-trodden percentage they're not rules, but a reasonably well-trodden percentage is 10, 10, 80, which looks like this. If you get $100 of income, that you would take the first $10 and you would give that to God through the local church. You would take the second $10 and pay yourself, and then learn to live off the $80. Now, this second one here, take $10, second step, and pay yourself. Some people hear that and they think, no, the $100 was me getting paid. No, absolutely not. That's not how this works, because here's how it works. $100 comes in, $40 goes to the mortgage, $20 goes to utilities, $15 goes to groceries, $10 goes to petrol. I filled my Vespa up this morning, people, from empty, like the gauge is on, to full, $10.40. It's an outrage. And I've got to make that last me 3 weeks. Subscriptions $5, and then maybe some once $10. Or you've spent $100. By the way, some people spend more than the $10 on once, and that's what we call debt. Here's the thing, you're not on that list. Your mortgage provider's on the list, your mobile phone provider's on the list, your grocery store's on the list, your gas station's on the list. You're not on the list. So unless you pay yourself first, what you will find is that at the end of that pay period, until the next payday, you've earned zero. You've just been like a money laundering facility from your employer to all of these other people. That's literally the dynamic. So unless you pay yourself, you don't actually get paid. You don't actually earn anything for yourself. And here's the neat thing. If you want a little bit of like Coach Marco, let's give him a bit of a rev. We're in the locker room here. You know what the neat thing is? If you haven't been in the habit of paying yourself, if you start, you've effectively given yourself a raise. From zero, that's how much you used to earn. Now you earn $10. And you can say, thanks, boss. Appreciate it. Yeah, great. You're welcome. 1080. Give, save, live. And here's another pro tip. Automate it. Remove emotions. Because when it comes to finances, it's not just the money roller coaster, it's the emotional roller coaster in many instances. And my pro tip is make the decision once to give, save, live. Make it once and then set it up and then just let it roll. So we do that. Every pay, first 10%, automated. Gone, done, great. God bless you, good on you, use it, God, awesome. Next, save, automated, and then we live off the rest. And one of the ways that makes it simpler is have 2 bank accounts. Have a spending account. Your bank's going to call it a savings account, but it isn't. It's a spending account. And then have a savings account. And have your pay come into your spending account. That's pretty normal. Have the give section amount come out automatically. Have the save, pay yourself second, go into your savings account and leave it. And it's not saving for the Bahamas cruise ship. No, this is a savings for the future. The Bahamas cruise ship trip, also known as the COVID cruise, that comes out of the 80%. So again, for this to work, firstly to get out of debt and then to start building up savings requires creating margin, not spending everything you earn. And really there's 2 ways to create margin. One is to play better offense and the other is to play better defense. And I'm going to talk about both of them, but let me also just say this for the record. I'm going to say this to you because I love you. Listen to me. It's going to take discipline. It's going to require self-control. And it's going to test your patience because it's not bought the ticket yesterday, won the lottery tomorrow. It's about a journey walking on the old godly ways. So let's start with playing better offense. Again, Solomon, wise dude, wrote this: take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. That's something Dave Ramsey would say as well. Learn from their ways and become wise. Oh, okay, sure, great. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer gathering food for the winter. Have you ever seen an ant standing still? Like ever? Like just kicking back with the drinks with the umbrella? No, they are always, if they're out in the wild, they're working. They're busy. They're getting it done. I know this for a fact. When ants know there's a source of food somewhere within walking distance, marching distance, I think is the official term when it comes to ants, they get into it. They're into it. I know this to be true. Many years ago, I was in a share house setting with some other humans, or at least I thought they were. Hold that thought. And I walked in the front door one day, mid-morning, and I walked into the dining room, and one of my share house mates was on their hands and knees with a dustpan and broom sweeping stuff up. And I'm just at the other end of the dining room. I haven't even stepped in there yet. And I noticed that the carpet, which actually was similar to this sort of puke green that we have here, was black. And I'm like, when did the carpet turn black? Like, I'm talking like black. And as I looked closely, I discovered that the floor was covered with ants. And I don't just mean like a few trails of ants. I don't even mean like one level. There was a multi-story assemblance of ants. It was actually a thickness, like it was a depth of ants. I don't know if that's the official term you use. There was a depth of ants. And old mates down the other end have obviously concluded that there's not a vacuum cleaner in the world large enough to be able to scoop up all of these ants, is with a dustpan and broom sweeping up these inches of ants. So I do what you'd expect me to do. I say to them, what the hell's going on? And they look up at me sheepishly and said, oh yeah, this morning when I was making breakfast, I dropped a couple of eggs on the floor, and then I went out. And I came back, and I discovered that there was just ants everywhere. So I did the next thing that you'd expect me to do. I said, why the hell did you leave the eggs on the floor? And then I did the next thing that you expect me to do. I kicked them out of the house. Share house arrangement terminated. Take your ants and your flippin' cracked eggs with you. It was so gross. Like gross. Coming to Netflix soon. Ant story. I mean, just gross. But here's the thing. The ants, they got a whiff of some cracked eggs on a floor in a house that they probably lived next door to subterraneously. And they were in there. They're like, this is our chance. We can earn something. They were in there to gather. Doing a great job. I'm like, I'm dialing 000. They knew how to play good offense. Like, here's something on the table or floor, and we're gonna gather it in. So here's a few just like super low-hanging fruit things that you might be able to put into play, in some cases today or tomorrow, to play better offense. One is to sell some stuff. Not your spouse, not your kids, stuff, not your clothes, although maybe some clothes. But sell some stuff. Now, just by the way, this one, sell some stuff, this is not an ongoing pattern. But this might just give you a little cash injection that you can put into your savings account that might actually just grab you some fresh motivation. Like, oh, $500 wasn't there yesterday. All right, let's just jumpstart the process. So you might want to. Call me. I can Marie Kondo this for you as well. You might want to go into your kitchen, your closet, your shed, and look for stuff that you have not used. Now, I'm not going to put on a number for you, but let me throw out a couple of, ideas. Haven't used for 6 months. Okay, well, it was my winter jacket. All right, 12 months. Well, but what if next winter it's colder? Okay, 24 months. Here's what you're going to find. You're like, oh, I forgot I owned this. So you put it on Gumtree or what's Facebook Marketplace or eBay, and then let someone else have it. And you don't even have to know if they're going to use it. That's not your problem. You get their money and put it into your savings account. Here's another intrinsic benefit of doing this, by the way. It actually starts to exercise your what was I thinking muscle. When you pull out that kitchen gadget and you're like, that you haven't used for 24 months, probably some cases you don't even know how to use. You're like, what was I thinking? And actually that starts to recalibrate some of your future purchase decisions. Like, is this going to be another case of that gadget? I talked about this second job could be something that you might want to do for a season, not if it's going to sacrifice your family or your marriage or your health. I get that. But for some people, there's some time margin that will create some financial margin. Sometimes it could be a side hustle. And if you start to play better offense, here's the adult warning. Don't raise your level of spending. It will effectively defeat the purpose of raising any income. And yet this is what people do. And by the way, I've done it. New job, paid more. Well, got more money to spend, haven't I? So I spend it. I increase my spending, and actually, even though I'm now earning more than I was at the last job. I mean, think about the first job you had. The first job I had, full-time job, $20,000 per annum, gross. That was what I was earning. And I got my first paycheck, and I thought to myself, I am never, ever, I'm fresh out of university, I am never, ever going to need more money than this. Like, wow, I have hit the jackpot here. And yet, what happens is if we go from the 20,000 job to the 30,000 job to the 50, whatever it looks like, too many people are guilty of what's called lifestyle creep. Is that as our income increases, we also take the opportunity to raise our expenditure. And then we live with this idea that the thing that's going to help us progress and create some margin is just a little more. How much more do you need to earn to create some margin? Just a little more. Which could be the ticket to ride, but also requires playing better defense. So, and now Louis and I are doing this right now through this series, looking under every rock. Like, we're pretty frugal, but always room for improvement. And I know some of you have done it because you've been telling me this. Is there a little way of saving money, a little way? Let me give you a few. We do these, but I'm not telling you should do these, and I sure as heck am not going to guarantee they're going to work for you. If they don't work, stiff. But we've been doing these, and they worked for us, and they're super practical, just low-hanging fruit. And I'm just going to throw a few out there. These might not even apply to you, or you might be already doing some of them. You might have a longer list than this, or these might spark a few like, here's one. And these are in no particular order. Defer buying once. Do you need that new phone this year? The one that's currently working just fine. Do you need the new car this year? Because the one you drive is the one. No one can answer this for you. I'm not saying don't. Listen to me. I didn't say don't buy once. I'm saying, but think about maybe defer buying once and take what you might have allocated there and put it in your savings. We're getting some momentum going in this world of savings. Here's another one. Unsubscribe from email marketing lists. They are electronic junk mail, if you didn't already know that. But the difference between electronic junk mail and paper junk mail is paper junk mail requires you to take physical steps to enact the purchase. So you get the physical junk mail and you open up the Shields catalog, and you open up the this catalog and the that catalog and the other catalog, and you might think, I'd like to have that. Sure, but you're going to need to then physically get up from that place and physically go somewhere and physically buy it. And you might, having thought that all through, just say, I couldn't be bothered. Great. Email marketing lists, you don't have to move. You open up your electronic device, the email list comes in. You know the items in the email list, they're actually clickable hyperlinks. And they take you to the thing. And you enter in your credit card, and then you get the thing. Well, you don't get it straight away. In fact, sometimes you buy it, and then 2 weeks later, a package arrives on your doorstep, and you think, what is this? You've no recollection of how this got there. So unsubscribe from email lists. Because here's the thing. When you get email marketing lists sent to you, the people sending it want you to say, shut up and take my money. Right? Because what you're seeing is like, wow. By unsubscribing from email lists, you're saying to the marketers, shut up and I'm going to keep my money. And if I need something from you, I'm going to come looking for you. I don't need you to come looking for me. All right, there's that. Maybe some lifestyle changes, rediscover the art of the picnic in the backyard because you're saving on fuel. And again, could just be for a season. Here's one, buy in bulk. If you come into my shed, you will see a shelving unit that is just floor to ceiling, cover to cover of bulk cleaning products. And when if you know bulk, let me define bulk. Liquid cleaners like spray cleaners or dishwashing liquid or hand soap, we buy 20-litre boxes of that. Like a 20-litre box, it's got a tap. So we take our little, well, when I say we, take our little container from in the laundry or the bathroom, whichever one needs refilling. Like Source Bulk Foods, just here you see around, that's my shed. I am Source Bulk Foods. Our 20 kilos of dishwashing powder, 20 kilos of laundry powder. It also is better for the environment. It's from a packaging point of view. But if you've got that little bit, yes, okay, you have to pay $120 to get one shipped to you. That's fine, but it'll last you a year, first of all. And it's per kilo, per litre, super cheap. Here's another one. Maybe think about switching grocery stores. Oh yeah, but I've always shopped at Schmoll's and Woolworths. Yeah, okay, but sure, but that was at a time when they were the only two players in town. And in many cases, you have to figure this out for yourself, but in many cases, they are not the most affordable options for a lot of just normal stuff. And now we've got these other new kids on the block that are, in many cases, less expensive. And look, if you want to do Schmoll's and Woolworths, go for it. That's fine. But understand you're probably paying a loyalty tax by continuing to shop there. Up to you. If I see you walking in or out of one of those places, I'm not going to judge you. Speaking of loyalty tax, when's the last time you reviewed your insurances? Shopped around. Health insurance, car insurance, home and contents insurance. There are companies out there that want your money and they're willing to take a little bit less of it to get your business from someone else. So again, you might be paying a loyalty tax because you're with the health fund you've always been with, and I know there's qualification periods. Look, I get all that. I'm not sitting up here being a finance broker. I'm just saying though, right now, and there's even some actual companies, their job is to find you a better deal. And they take a commission from the supplier, not from you. So just think about that. And then finally, speaking of subscriptions and lifestyle creep, review your current subscriptions. And I'm talking about TV streaming services, music streaming services, other app stuff that you're not using or you're not using to get the value for the money. One of our team did this last week. They just, this was them looking under every rock. They went through apps and services and they trimmed $50 a month of their own stuff that they voluntarily signed up for in a former life. That's $600 a year. It's only $600 a year. Listen, if you feel that way, come here later. I'll be there. Give me the $600. I guarantee you it'll mean a lot to me. If it means nothing to you, God bless you in advance. So these are just ideas because again, I've said this before, a goldfish doesn't feel wet. And the longer we're in a culture, and the longer we do certain habits and practices, the more normalized they become, but it doesn't mean they're optimal. So sometimes it's this idea of stand at the crossroads and look around. Is there a better, wiser, more effective way? And we've been talking about the old godly ways that are a yawn fest. Your grandparents used to do them. Boring. Yeah, but your grandparents didn't have debt collectors calling them either. So let me pray, and then I'm going to hand to Louis, and then we're donezo. Next week, launch a brand new series. Excited about that. Lead up to Easter. Louis will tell you that. Let me pray. I recognize that in our auditorium, our podcast, our online community, people are going to be in one of those three categories, and we're excited, and hopefully you're excited that there's a journey in front of you that points to financial freedom. Okay, this goal isn't to be Richie Rich counting your bags of money in the basement vault. It's about being free, and then to have the choice of being people that you decide where you're going to send it and where you're going to spend it. So God, I thank you that you have so much wisdom out there in your word for us, old godly ways when it comes to financial management, and that we would be people that don't live under the weight or the bondage of debt and an inability just to kind of make it from paycheck to paycheck. But rather, God, you move us forward, you lead us forward, you empower us to move forward. And that we would be people that aren't bragging about how big our TV is, but we brag about how great our God is. And we look like people who have actually put into practice the old godly ways and found the promise of having rest for our souls when it comes to our finances. In Jesus' name, amen.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.